and fewer people knew their history, to the point where, having the same last name, they were sometimes introduced by the well-meaning young at a university club function or after one of Donald Wilkins' wonderful organ recitals at Calvary as sisters, a notion Arlene, though not Emily, found wildly amusing. Today, as always, Arlene was late. It was gray and raining, typical November weather for Pittsburgh, and Emily stood at the living room's bay window, leaning over the low radiator and holding the sheer curtain aside. The storm window was spotted and dirty. A few weekends ago, her next-door neighbor Jim Cole had generously hung them, but he'd failed to clean them properly, and now there was nothing to be done until the spring. She would spend a morning tending to them herself, the way her mother had taught her, with vinegar and water, wiping them streak-free with newsprint, but that was months off. Outside, the trees and hedges along Grafton Street were bare and black, and the low sky made it feel like late afternoon instead of morning. The Millers was still for sale. Their leaves hadn't been picked up yet, and lay smothering the yard, a dark, sodden mass. She wondered who would be looking to buy this time of year. The last she'd heard, Kay Miller was in an assisted living place over in Aspinwall, but that had been in August. Emily thought she should visit her, though in truth it was the last thing she wanted to do. When she thought of fashionable, flighty Kay Miller in a place like the one in Aspinwall, she couldn't help but picture Louise Pickering's final hospital room. The oatmeal bareness, the mechanical bed, the plastic water pitcher with its bent straw on the rollaway table. Consciously, she knew those places could be very nice, just as homey as your own bedroom or close to it. But the vision of Louise persisted, and the idea that she was at an age where all was stillness and waiting, not true, yet impossible to dismiss. She was dying. Yes, fine. They all were, by degrees. If Dr. Syed expected her to be devastated by the idea, that only showed how young he was. There was no point in going into hysterics. It wasn't the end of the world, just the end of her. And lately she'd come to think that was natural, and possibly something to be desired, if it could be achieved with a modicum of dignity, not pointlessly drawn out, like Louise undergoing all those torturous last-ditch procedures because Timothy and Daniel refused to give up. She'd never wanted to be 80. Practically, she'd never wanted to outlive Henry. A stale, metallic heat rose from the radiator, baking her shins. With her car coat buttoned up to her neck and her scarf already tucked in, it was oppressive. She let go of the curtain and turned away. On the front hall runner, Rufus sat at attention, staring at the door as if he might open it by sheer mind power. "I told you," Emily said. "You're not going anywhere. Go lie down. Go." Reluctantly, he padded to his spot at the bottom of the stairs and circled twice before collapsing with a huff on the rag rug, his snout pointed toward her. "Yeah," she said, "I've got my eye on you too, mister. I don't want to find anything when I get home. You know what I'm talking about." He looked up at her guiltily, as if he understood, and part of her argued that it wasn't his fault. Technically, he was older than she was, ancient for a Springer, and lately he'd taken to sleeping most of the day away, like Duchess before she died. He could also be bad, and he'd never been before, getting into the garbage or gnawing on a chair leg or peeing on the carpet right in front of her as if he'd gone senile. "What am I going to do with you?" she asked, as she would a child, because there was no answer. She could only scold him and clean up the mess, and when she left him home alone like now, she worried. She heard Arlene's car pull in before he did. Out front, through the gauzy curtains, a dark blob filled the